Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word. I'm a little bit late this morning, having some computer issues, but anyways, I finally, I think, got this thing moving. So thanks for joining me on this Friday morning. We've reached the end of another week together. Thanks for joining me for our time together and our ongoing conversation through Scripture and around Scripture and deep on the insides of Scripture and what it means for us and how we apply it to our daily lives and what it means for us. So hopefully these days together have made a difference in your life. All these days together. We are today, daily word number 851, as we continue our journey together. So thanks for carving out time to be with me and for offering your greetings and sharing your life with me. So I've chosen for this morning for our scripture from 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 1 through 5, and we hear these words. When I came to you, brothers and sisters, I did not come proclaiming the testimony of God to you with superior speech and wisdom. For I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. And I came to you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. My speech and my proclamation were not made with persuasive words of wisdom, but with a demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith might not rest on human wisdom, but on the power of God. It strikes me that when we think about faith, and in my conversations with people about faith, that we often think that our faith, or the definition of our faith, or the proof that we have faith, lies in the outcome of an event, of a circumstance, a season, a prayer request, kind of like, I believe this will happen, I believe that will happen, I believe things will be okay. I saw a friend the other day post a picture with a friend of his, and he said, Bob, the last time I talked to you, I said, everything's going to be okay. And then he said, obviously it wasn't. His friend had died. I think when we think about faith, we think about outcomes. I had a conversation with a person about prayer who asked a question, what do you do when your prayers aren't answered? Because the person had prayed for a specific thing and it didn't happen. And I said, well, sometimes I wonder when I pray for specific things if I'm praying for the right thing, and I said to them, look, I've been praying for healing for over 4 years now. It hasn't happened. My leg is worse and worse, and I have these bouts of falling or almost falling pretty often these days. But I said, I wonder if I pray for the wrong things, and that my life should be a witness to something else. When we think about faith, I think the truest and most important aspect of our faith, as Paul writes to us, is the object of our faith, in whom we place our trust. Faith in outcomes is really hope. And the faith and the foundation of our faith is not in outcomes necessarily, but in power. There's a fine but distinct line between believing the who and believing the what. Believing the who, God, and believing the what, the outcome. Faith is the choice for us to trust God. It's obeying without even knowing what the outcome will be. It's obeying without even knowing what the outcome will be. Faith unleashes the power of God's Spirit, the true height of our human capacity Faith means trusting God even when we don't like or understand what God is doing. Really, that's what makes faith so powerful and so advantageous to us. The outcomes that we want, even if we get them, don't always work out how we imagine them. Our wisdom is flawed and incomplete, but God's wisdom is boundless. Paul writes these interesting words to us about how he comes to the church in Corinth and how he comes with fear and choosing his words wisely and carefully, because he says, I do that so that your faith might rest not on human wisdom, but on the power of God. A few weeks ago, I was asked to go see someone who was dying. And he was a friend, and so I said, of course. And so between the time I had agreed to go and I was able to go on that particular day, one of his relatives messaged me and said, you know, Pastor Oates, we're really worried about him. Where he's going to go, and we really need you to go see him. I don't have the power to make people go to heaven, but I went and saw the person, and it was a tough visit, but we prayed together in the end, and he repeated my prayers. Not that I have any magical powers, but he relaxed and he calmed down and he recognized me and smiled and said, Pastor Jim. At the funeral home, I talked with these particular folks and told them of my prayers with him. And they were so relieved because somewhere deep inside of them, their faith was tied to me somehow and was tied to this outcome. This scripture reminds me, and I felt really uncomfortable with that whole thing and the authority that they gave me. But this scripture reminds me very clearly, our faith doesn't rest on human wisdom, on your pastor's wisdom, but it rests on the power of God. And so, I left that whole situation pretty humbled by the encounter and the conversation, and wanting just to make sure that I looked at what God has given me and to use it wisely, and to be careful with the words that I say and the actions that I take, because, the authority belongs to God and not to me. The power belongs to God and not to you. My wisdom, our wisdom, is flawed and incomplete, but God's wisdom is boundless and just showers over us. So it's the end of a week. We head into the weekend with all kinds of things on our calendars and on our plates, I'm sure. Might we be reminded that our words, our actions, our thoughts, even our wisdom, we should be careful because they're flawed, they're incomplete. But be reminded that God's love and grace and wisdom is boundless in us and through us. And that's a word I think that we all need to hear and be reminded of. So thanks for joining me for our time together. Hope you'll join us for worship on Sunday morning at 10:15 as we talk again kind of about this story when Jesus goes to preach at the temple and he preaches with authority and they say, what is this? Some kind of new thing. And Jesus reminds them again about God's wisdom in their midst. So join us at 10:15 and then here again Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day and a great weekend. Know of God's love and know of my love for you.